From Inwood, New York City, welcome to Inwood Art Works On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home what we affectionately call upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and this is a special State of the Arts episode to kick off our 5th season of Inwood Art Works On Air. This is our first episode of 2024, and I can't believe we've done 4 seasons and we're heading into a 5th. But thank you all those wonderful subscribers out there, and for those of you who maybe be listening to the first time, welcome. So what this is we, like I said, we highlight the local community, and we raise it up, and we like to listen to wonderful music performed by local artists, or if they're ones of visual arts or literary arts or other arts, we talk about process and their work and how they became an artist and where they're going and what advice they might have for people coming up, and also inviting those to see their work. Not to mention, we have a lot of fans out there over the past 4 years who have written in via email or on the street in front of the farmers market here where we normally record in Inwood. On a Saturday, we'll say, hey, have you ever thought of this? Or do you know this group? Or how do I get involved? Or XYZ. They have a lot of questions. And so I thought, you know what? Let's just start off season 5 with, let's take a temperature check. And this is not a State of the Union address. I'm not going to editorialize and say I'm get up on my soapbox per se and tell people what I think things should be or how things are. We could talk about that separately sometime if you want to catch me, really. But this is more along the lines of but it's I feel like this podcast is always, it's part documentary in a way of these are the people who lived here when doing what. And it is January in 2024, and the world has changed quite a bit, and it'd be interesting just to be resourceful, I think, and take a moment this time to reflect and say, okay, we've been told in New York City there's going to be a lot of cutting to the arts. We've been told about congestion pricing. We've told about inflation. There's wars going on globally. There's culture wars going on internally here in the city and the state. So with all of that, it's harder to be an artist today. You can argue it's been hard to be an artist at any age, but it's not getting any easier. I think we can safely say that. And that's about as editorial I'm going to get on things. But I do want to take this time to kind of reach out to those and be resourceful. And I think this podcast, over the 160 some odd episodes we've done, have been helpful in many respects. So I want to take this moment to kind of speak to the artists and also speak to audiences separately, but collectively throughout the same episode to say, hey, you've asked, and let me respond. And I hope this is of help. And I hope, if anything, what Inwood Art Works does better than anything, whether it's our Inwood Film Festival, whether it's our Filmworks al Fresco events, our podcasts, or art gallery pop-ups, or our concerts, is at the end of the day, we use art as a platform to bring people together. And so I hope this opportunity is another medium for that, and taking this moment to do that. So one of the first things, kind of artist-driven questions, are how do I break through the noise, and how do I get the word out about our work? Well, obviously, you are your own best marketer for your own company and for your own work. So you have to promote. Number one, whether it's word of mouth, whether it's through online or print advertising, being a postcard or whatever you can afford to do that. But at the end of the day, it's on you, and use the resources around you. There's a lot of free publishing blogs throughout. You just even posting your event for free on Eventbrite or places like that, even if you're not charging tickets, is helpful in getting the word out, getting published. And so that's one way of getting your word out about your work. And also partner with people. Major thing. Find people who are doing like-minded stuff and catch on to them and help them help you, and vice versa. So always good things, and like I said, free calendars and things like that for the budget conscious people, which is always a good thing. How do I get on your podcast? It's very, very fun question we get. We're flattered by it. So, hey, you can submit to us. Just write to submissions@inwoodartworks.nyc, and if we don't know you, it's kind of probably why you're not on the podcast. So introduce yourself, introduce your work, introduce yourself at one of our events. Always a good thing, and we're open to the possibility. So definitely get in touch with us. We do about 45 episodes a year-ish or so. So if you got a good shot, it won't happen right away. We have a bit of a queue, which is a wonderful thing. Because again, this neighborhood is my phrase that I've coined a long time ago is that it's an artistic desert with an embarrassment of artists. I know we don't have a lot of venues and things like that, but we have wonderful array of artists who live in this neighborhood, which this podcast is testament to. Number 3 on the list is where can I get money to do my stuff? Well, the best thing is to ask someone who's rich. That's your or born into wealth. That's what you want to do. But being a person who have not done other things, not born into wealth, not a rich person, you earn it the old hard-fashioned way. And there are grants out there, individual artist grants. You don't have to run a company. You could be individually sponsored by a company like the Field or Fractured Atlas, or a nonprofit. Fiscal sponsorship, they refer to that. Or you can apply for individual artist grants through wonderful organizations like Inwood Art Works for our Filmmaker Fund grant. NOMA gives out grants. LMCC, UMES, NIFA. There's a lot of great, just Google all those letters together or separately, and you will find opportunities for individual artists and collaborators and groups. Opera America, there's a whole bunch of great people that have grants out there. So you can find funding. It's out there. Go get it. And last but not least is venues. Kind of going back to what I said earlier, is that where can I do things? I need a space, Aaron. I get that every week. Where can I perform? Everyone has different needs, obviously. So a few wonderful collaborators I think you should reach out to is Good Shepherd here. Has wonderful sense of community. Always inviting people in. No, you don't have to be Catholic. You have to be a good person. It's what more to ask? And they're wonderful people to work with. Holy Trinity Church down on Cummings Street. They have renovated their worship space, and they're open to doing many things in the community. Reach out to them. The Booney Coffee space is a performing space, an art space. As Josh Liveright and the Xena Group hosts that place. Does a lot of great things. You can go through their website. Obviously, many coffee shops and little restaurants like Inwood Farm and Kiro Kurin and many other places that are art stroll friendly will have exhibitions. You can ask the individual artists if they have wall space. So I would say those are also very good bets throughout the neighborhood, which are very, very numerous and too many to go into here. So those are my suggestions. Those are the kind of the top questions I just kind of wanted to field. But then the second part of this podcast I wanted to go into is kind of a community calendar for 2024, if you will, of like institutions and organizations that kind of I feel are very integral into providing a great foundation for the cultural arts in Inwood and Washington Heights and beyond. So it's not a defined list. I know I'm going to leave somebody out, and somebody's going to be really mad at me, and I'm going to get an email tomorrow, which is totally fine, and I deserve it probably. But because we work with a lot of different people, and so it's not about every group. But these are, I'll say, people who've been around for a while, and again, thinking with the idea of being a resource. I wanted to kind of give this as a kind of like an arts and cultural kind of community calendar. If you're looking for, this is more for the audiences, less for artists, but artists, of course, are welcome. But, where can I go to find XYZ? Well, I kind of chopped it up into genre for you. So if you're looking for theater, off the bat, Up Theater Company has been around for a very long time. They do the Dead of Winter series for readings. They do a main stage once a year at Fort Collegiate Church, which is also a resource of a space, which is no longer, by the way, Fort Collegiate Church. They've left, and it's a kind of more of a shell to be rented out. So there you go, another venue for you. People's Theater Project does a lot of educational theater, but also has a young company, immigrant-based theater, a lot of self-devised work. So check them out. Again, and I will say this too, a lot of these have been on our podcast. You can go back in our podcast catalog and check out these companies and learn more about them through that too. Xena Group, Josh Liveright, who I mentioned before, at the Booney Space, does like short plays in the cafe. You have, idea of theater expanding to like stand-up comedy. Word Up has hosts a variety of live events, including the No Name stand-up and variety show that Eric Vetter has been at the helm at for years and does a tremendous job. So make sure you check out them. And then, of course, if you're going to children's theater, Pied Piper. If you have kids, the Pied Piper Children's Theater does a wonderful work. Joe and Leslie Burby, amongst many other people involved. Bob Winbiel, a ton of people are involved with that group, and they work out of, I think, the Hebrew Tabernacle right now, but they're open to different spaces as well. We'll get to them in a minute. For dance Project of Washington Heights. Heather does a great job down there. Heather Godfrey with there's classes, adults and beginners and kids. They do what do you call them, recitals open to the public with their teachers, instructors. They do a great job. Check them out. And they usually perform in Alumni Auditorium down there at 168. Another possible venue through Columbia Office of Government Community Affairs for you artists. Again, see how things kind of creep in here. Kinesis Dance Project, Melissa Riker uses outdoors to do everything, not just in Northern Manhattan, but throughout. The parks, also, let's just say the parks is a wonderful venue, obviously. So, you know where to go for that. NYC Parks. To get a permit, yes, you need a permit, and make that happen depending on the scale of your event. Going towards more dance, Rumba Mena. Jimenez Salgado has done multiple performances for us throughout the past few years, and including a wonderful dance here, actually, Good Shepherd Auditorium last February called The Showgirl Life. And you can catch them throughout Northern Manhattan and throughout Long Island and the whole five boroughs here. Moving on to art, we have the Hudson Heights Art Studio over on 187. Check them out. They're pretty new, just happened coming out of the pandemic. Jeff Koningsberg, and we're talking adult and kids classes. So all good there. And super awesome. A very supportive environment. Cornerstone Studios, down at Our Savior's Atonement, just down the hill. Jeff Hoppe is at the helm of that wonderful place. They have open studios twice a year, but also a place for artists to work. And we need to go down a little bit further down to 178 at the United Palace, where NOMA has their studios now. That used to be the old Dance Project of Washington Heights area, and that's all now their studios to do. There's a photography studio, there are open studios to rehearse, and there's actually gallery space as well. And also, you got a segue to the art stroll, which I mentioned briefly earlier, that NOMA had taken on after its inception, for the past few years, and NOMA has been presenting that throughout Northern Manhattan and a little bit of West Harlem, up by Sugar Hill, and so you can always go check out that in June. And also, I want to mention the Goldwing Gallery at Hebrew Tabernacle in kind of like the basement area, and also kind of throughout. Regina Gratis deserves tip of the hat for all her work over the years. Lily Levin has done wonderful work, but just want to make sure people know about that. And then kind of going back to the Palace for a second, talk about film. There's no movie theaters up here. Closest movie theater is down in Harlem at 125, or Yonkers, Alamo Draft House on Central Avenue. Wonderful food, by the way. But nothing in between. So United Palace has done a great job here and there doing their film series. Lin-Manuel hosts it and gets the big wigs in there to sit with him. So check out their calendar about what's possibly coming up there, and also some possible other events. And, going over to the concert area of the world, Mother Cabrini Shrine around 190th and Fort Wash. Julia Attaway does a fantastic job bringing in tons of great people, and I fully recommend you checking that out. Our Savior's Atonement down the hill. Again, our same building as, I think, 178 Bennett as the Cornerstone Studios. Bridget Kibbe, I believe, hosts the MOSA concert series. Again, periodically chamber concerts throughout the year, seeing fantastic players get involved there. And then we enter the jazz world. You have Jazz Wahai with Mark and Louise, who've been on the podcast, I think season 2 or so. And they're tireless. They have jazz jams in Bennett Park, Kismet, all over the place. They have the Washington Heights Jazz Festival over and throughout different places like La Kayla. And I believe that happens in November. So, just check out their calendar. Like, you just kind of bump into their stuff. It's all over the place. Never a dull moment with them. And JPower, we got to talk about JPower Initiative, which is fantastic. Eli, Dr. E, is doing great work educational-wise and also concerts. Another possible venue is Alianza Building, the Triangle Building, then on 168. Near, I believe it's at St. Nicholas and Broadway area of the world. Double check me on the cross streets, but regardless, that should be a community space to be used by everybody. So check that out. I believe it's like on the second or third floor there. And but JPower does great concerts there, and also other places in the neighborhood. And then a new entry, the Inwood Jazz Festival. Aaron Scott and the folks at Bruce's Garden got together to put that forward this past summer, and I'm very much assured that's happening again this coming, I believe, July. So mark your calendars in Inwood Hill Park for that, probably on Pat's Lawn, where it was last year. And then we're going to go to the museum world. We have 3 fantastic museums, at least up here, if not more. If you're probably hiding, I don't even know about. The Dykeman Farmhouse, of course, right over down here between 204 and 207 on Broadway, that hosts multiple art exhibitions, not only their own, through history. And you have Morris Jumel Mansion down on Jumel Terrace, off of Sylvan Terrace there. And Roger Morris Park hosts a variety of events indoors and outdoors. And then you have the Hispanic Society of America, which does a fantastic job. They are open, folks. You can go in. It's free, by the way. Go in and experience all that collection has to happen. And there's going to be more live events outside, too, in the new year. So that's kind of like my survey of, for those who didn't know. And plus, you have many pop-ups of small groups here and there. So you got to keep your eyes peeled. But feel free to check in with us, and feel free to email us if you had any questions, or if you need help of some kind, or if you want more information. I would say, by the way, go to everybody's websites here and go check them out. But you're going, hey, Aaron, aren't you missing something? Oh, yeah. What about Inwood Art Works events? Well, we're coming back too. So we have a full year of stuff waiting to happen. Our Holy Trinity is, film, stage, and visual arts. And we're starting off with concerts in April. We're going to present big tent over there at the Holy Trinity space. We'll do another community concert with Inwood Chamber Players, and probably late May at Good Shepherd. We'll have an October concert also at Good Shepherd, and then we'll have a holiday concert in December. And as far as other concerts, they'll also they'll coincide with our Filmworks Al Fresco events, which happens throughout the summer. I guarantee you we'll be back presenting I believe, our 7th season of Filmworks Al Fresco, which is New York City's only free outdoor bilingual cinema series. And before each of film, we're going to have live music or live performances of some kind, dance, opera, you name it, stand-up comedy, we're going to have it. And so we invite you out every Monday at the Hudson there on Dykeman Street. And then also we'll be partnering with other organizations like the Hispanic Society to bring you more wonderful arts and cultural screenings throughout the year. And hey, if you want us to bring a free outdoor screening to your neighborhood on your street, let us know, and maybe we can collaborate and make that happen. And last but not least, I want to talk about, we have the Inwood Film Festival. We're thrilled to bring the 7th annual coming at you. And so to be determined on the date yet. We're still working that out, but we're looking forward to announcing that very, very soon. And last but not least, we are trying to get a venue for a Popup Art Gallery here in the neighborhood. We've had tremendous success pre-pandemic in doing that. And so the call is out to you, my friends. If you know a landlord or someone who's willing to work with us to put together a space to host local artist work, please reach out to us, and we're looking forward to making that happen this year, amongst many other things. So that is kind of like the survey and the community calendar and community board of the state of the arts here in Inwood, Washington Heights, and beyond in 2024. And I want to mention one thing. We don't talk about Kingsbridge in the Bronx much, but Monomore Coffee and 238 hosts Art in the Basin, which are friends of ours who've been on our podcast. And so a lot of spoken word, again, comedy, music, and make sure you check out Amy Jo Roboteau and Tim W. Brown, who host a wonderful program up in Kingsbridge. So once again, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And again, I encourage you to check out the websites of all these wonderful organizations, become patrons, get on their mailing lists, and be champions of the arts and culture uptown. So thank you again for joining me on this State of the Arts episode of Inwood Art Works On Air. And it's where you get to experience art and culture from our community. And please show us some love right now by rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts. That really helps. Thanks again to Church of Good Shepherd here for hosting us, and to HeightsHeights.com for uptown promotional support. You can support On Air and all of our programming by making a tax-free donation to inwoodartworks.nyc/donate, or via Venmo at Inwood Artworks. Be sure to follow us on social media to keep up with all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, art galleries, live performances, and so much more. Inwood Artworks On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. And Inwood Artworks programming is made possible by the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Artworks On Air.